Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the in-review video for Duskers. Something new I was trying out this year was to review the games I have played after I am done playing them. I tried to figure out what scores what points I should have in different categories, and you can see the way I score games down below in the comment section. Basically, a game can earn between -7 points, which would be a god-awful game, the worst I've ever played in my life, and I might have killed myself had I played it, or 20, which is a perfect game. I would never want to play anything else ever. And no game I've ever played has ever earned either of these scores. You should know as well that this video is likely to have lots of spoilers, or, well, maybe not lots, but there'll be a few spoilers here, and so, like all these reviews do, if you don't want spoilers for Duskers, just don't even bother watching this, and thank you for stopping by. And before we go any further, you should know that this score for Duskers, I mean, it's obvious, based on the last video, that the score is going to suffer quite a bit because of the amount of bugs that Duskers has in it, especially for the version of the game that I possess, which is not the Steam version. So keep that in mind as well. I have tried very hard not to let it color my view of the other aspects of this game too much, though. But we'll see when we begin scoring it, which we're going to start now. Oh yeah, and speaking of which, by the way, you can read all this down in the comment section down below in case you don't want to actually listen to me talk and would rather read it instead. Alright, oh, and one more thing before we get going. In the background this time is the previous Duskers video. I'm just playing that again, which is also why I don't have any sound this time around. Because, well, I did a lot of talking in the last Duskers, and it'd be really confusing hearing me talk over myself talking already. So, this is a silent video this time as we talk about Duskers. So let's go ahead and get started. So, the first thing I do when it comes to video games is talk about the video aspect of them. And a game can get anywhere between 0, which is to say it had no graphics whatsoever. That would be like a choose-your-own-adventure book, which do exist on Steam, at the very least. I've seen a few visual novels in that vein. Or a 3, which would be an amazing-looking game. Something like The Witcher 3 or Doom 2016. And for Duskers, I am torn between a 1 or a 2. All throughout this year, as I've rated more and more games, I begin to wish that I had more granularity in these categories that I've come up with, because there's quite a big difference between a 2 for one game and a 2 in another. I was giving games a 2 if everything looked decent enough, you could understand what everything was without any issues or trouble, and it's obviously put some work into it. And on that regard, I would be tempted to give Duskers a 2. However, I've played very many better looking games than Duskers that I have given a 2 to, and I'm not sure if a 2 would be fair to those other games that I have given a 2 to. So, I mean, the game doesn't look bad, but I think they could have shown a little more detail for the drones themselves or the ships that we found ourselves on. But I also feel so guilty about giving the game a 1. Generally, in the past at least, I would have felt that this means the graphics are poorly done. But if I'd stop to think about it now, although I have played a few games where the graphics are very poor, I think they make up for this by having some quirkiness to them or uniqueness. An example of a game that I would rate a 1 for graphics would be West of Loathing. Now, West of Loathing, I really like the game, and I think graphically they were going for a unique art style, and it works. The stick figures walking around, it's funny. I like it, but I'd be lying if I said it was a fantastic looking game. It is in its own right, but compared to other games that I've played, that game suffers. So I think this game qualifies as something similar. The graphics aren't great, and especially when you're looking at, like as we're looking now, the universe view or the schematic view when we're on the ship to issue the commands. We understand like what rooms we're going to and so on, what doors are open. And although I don't feel this is the main aspect of the game, so you shouldn't be too harsh on a game because of the graphics, I do still think that it could have looked a little bit better. Although, to be fair, again, the cams of the drones as you're piloting them through the derelicts, they look decent enough. You can tell, like, where the server racks are, where shelves or tables are located. You can see debris. The enemies look a bit different when you encounter them. Of course, we only met 2, thanks to bugs. But, I mean, it's acceptable. Design isn't lazy. But I do think if I was to give the game a 2, I think that would be pulling down all the other games I've rated so far this year. So I think between a 0 and a 3, we're going to give Duskers a 1 for graphics. It's acceptable. You can understand what everything is when you look at it. The schematic views, where I prefer to spend most of my time in the game, looking at things like we see here, it's very simplistic. There's not much to look at, but the game itself, the gameplay itself is kind of fun. So there's that. All right, next let's go to the sound. So I didn't get a chance to hear many of the sound effects, but the beeps beep and the boops boop as you're running around. We do have that background droning of the ship's like air ducts or life support system going on in the background. It sounds like I'm sitting in the server room where I used to work, and I like that sound. It sounds realistic. We did hear a bell sound once and some creaking. I think that was supposed to be like a hull breach that was going on, but because of the bugs we encountered, we didn't get a chance to experience them more than a handful of times. So I don't think anything is out of place, but I didn't get a good chance to listen to more of the sound effects going on. So, I think a 1 here is also fair. They did a decent job on the sound. I wish I could have heard more of it, but bugs stopped me from doing so. For the music of the game, there's no music. So we hear the droning of the machinery on our ship as we're in the different menus or panels. We can hear the sound of like electronics and maybe some creatures moving around as they fill the air when we're on these different ships. And this makes it really hard for me to give it a score because I honestly never thought I'd be playing a game that doesn't have music, if I'm going to be quite honest. There's only one other game I've played that doesn't have music in it for the most part, and that would be Geneforge. Even some of the old Commodore 64 games that I play regularly on my channel, like The Wild, well, that had a little intro tune, and it had some music when you would pick up or defeat an enemy, and like Legacy of the Ancients, that had music in it every so often, the little tunes that would play if you were successful or unsuccessful at things, and of course the intro tune for that as well, but this game doesn't have any. And again, Geneforge would be another game that had only an intro song to it, and then no music for the entirety of the game. So this was a deliberate choice. And I feel bad for giving the game a 0 here, because I don't think you really need music in this game. You don't, and you can play something in the background. In fact, you probably don't want music, because you want to hear everything that's going on around you as you're exploring these ships. And music would stop you from hearing the sounds of, like, a hull breach, or hearing something pounding on a door if it was going to destroy it or something of the sort. But that said, I have this category, and there was no music here at all. So I'm going to give it a 0 for the music score. And I'm not saying the game sucks because of it has no music. I never anticipated playing a game that didn't have any, and I don't know how to score this game because of it. I think giving it a 1 would be unfair to games that have music. It's just a little bit inappropriate, like System Shock 2, for example. Right? Music there was good. But again, I didn't want to hear techno beats as I'm running around a creepy space station trying to kill zombies. That was just a little bit weird to me. And it's not the same as music which is really out of place, or rather poorly done either. So I think a 0 would be the most fairest thing I could do. There is no music in this game, so I can't award any points to it for that. Next up is the story. And so, from what I know of how the game's story is presented to the player, is that there is a clear "this happened," and you're supposed to track down and explain this event, whatever it is. This event changes if you clear your campaign and might be different from one player to another. I think that's the way it works. We didn't get very far in the game before I decided to toss in the towel. So it's difficult for me to give it a score based on that because the only thing I've read are the handful of log messages that we encountered on these ships. However, I believe that as we would be exploring the other vessels, as our ship's AI or what have you would have us do in order to figure out what happened to the universe, we would slowly piece together which of these types of events, like some sort of time travel instance, are there aliens? Is there something wrong with the replicators to create something called gray goo? Is there some sort of space radiation that killed everyone? We would eventually figure out which one of those things is the correct thing that happened to the universe. And I like that. It means that you're never sure what your actual objective is when you start a new campaign. However, I also know that in this game, supposedly, from what I've read online, that there is no ending to the game. Even if you discover what happened in the universe, the game doesn't end with your victory. Like, you're still all alone on your ship, flying through the universe, trying to survive. Going from ship to ship, looking for scrap, looking for fuel so you can get to the next ship, and so on and so forth. So if I'm being honest about the story, I just didn't really care very much about it. I mean, I do kind of feel bad about that. It was a nice backdrop to explain the go here, get more fuel, get more scrap, so that you can go over to this other ship, so you can get more fuel, so you can get more scrap, and so on. I don't think the game really needs a powerful story to make it good, and I could have given this game a 2 here for the story. Like, I don't think it's a bad story, and I don't think the idea that they were trying to come up with is bad either. However, just like with the graphics, I am now trying to consider other games that I've given a 2 or a 1 to. And I want to be fair to those games. I don't want to begin lumping, like, if I begin saying that the story was decent enough, I give it a 2 instead of a 1, I'm going to end up with almost all the games I play having the same score at the very end, which might be fair, because most of the games I play end up with a score around 12 or so, which is to say, they're decent. Nothing spectacular, nothing really wrong with them though, and I could probably recommend them for a host of reasons. For this game though, I think I will give the story a 1, and here we are reading about some of that story here. I wish I had played more of the game. I am probably being very unfair to the game's story here, but thanks to bugs and glitches, unfortunately, I will not be seeing the entire story of this game. And I don't think if I give the game a 2, I honestly don't think the world building is on par with Disco Elysium, even if the story might be. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 1 on a 0 through 3. For the gameplay, you can score between 0 and 3 points here for me. And gameplay-wise, this works. It's fun. It's tough. I tried playing the game a little bit more on the other computer. I died several more times because things happen. I panic, and then I lose all my drones, or I lose like 2 drones, and I might as well just give up and throw in the towel. I've died way more often than what you guys have seen me do in the recordings I have uploaded to my channel. I want to stress that you really do feel, especially from the schematic view and with the command prompt, you feel like you're actually piloting these drones using your battle station in your house. It is amazing how good the feeling is of doing this. And you have to make some tough choices early on about what you want to spend your initial scrap on. And you always have to consider about how much risk you want to take when you go into a different ship or a derelict. I really like the different types of dangers you need to be aware of as well. Unfortunately, again, we didn't encounter really anything because of the glitch, which didn't start the game's timer until you actually type in open A1 to begin the adventure. So we didn't get to see very many of these different types of dangers in my gameplay. But that would be like hull breaches, radiation, asteroids, different types of creatures that we never encountered. I myself felt scrap-starved as I was playing the game, and that's good. I like it when a survival game really causes you to stress about the amount of resources that you are accumulating, as opposed... Okay. Yes. Sorry, Fraps died on me right at that point. That's super awkward. All right, so I think gameplay-wise, I can see this game being it's a great amount of fun. And I'm going to give... this may be a little too much, but I'm going to give the game a 3 out of 3 points for gameplay. I can see how this game could be a lot of fun to play it, assuming that we didn't experience the amount of bugs that we were experiencing. We would constantly be having to deal with new threats, where we feel like we're on a time limit in these missions, because if it wasn't for the bugs, we would be. And I can see this being very, very difficult to master. And how a single thing that you panic about or misclick could lead to the utter annihilation of everything you've accumulated for hours beforehand. So I like that in my roguelike. So I'm going to give the gameplay a 3 here. It's really phenomenal. I think they did a great job of making it seem like you're piloting these ships on a possibly abandoned derelict or something filled with hostile creatures. Really, really great. For the Gui and Controls, this is really tricky to give a score to, because while I adore the inclusion of the alias-like commands and issuing orders to your drones in the schematic view, the way drones path around the ship is pretty poor. If you leave it to the AI, they get stuck on other ships. They get stuck in doorways if they can't have easily, like, the pathing is really bad. The game also doesn't pause when you are accessing the alias list in your from this screen, and the only way for you to access that is to be already in the mission. This is yet probably another reason why they didn't start the timer for what would happen on the ship until you opened A1, because otherwise, well, asteroids might start slamming into the side of your vessel while you're busy trying to type out your alias list for the first time and so on. But still, I don't like these things. I don't know if I have it written later down in a later section, but I'm just going to go ahead and quickly add that I absolutely hate the way the game takes away your ability to view things with the schematic view for some sort of gameplay reason. Maybe they should lower the score in the gameplay section by 1, but I'm instead going to put it over here in Gui and Controls. So instead of a 2, I think on a scale of 0 through 2, I think a 1 is fair here for Controls. For the grindy aspect of the game, so you can lose points here with me if your game is grindy, but you don't really have to grind here, as it were. The main gameplay loop does involve you doing similar things on the derelicts that you go and investigate, but this is the appeal of the game. The game doesn't feel grindy, although, again, you're doing more or less the same things that you'll do on every single ship. But again, well, not again, the enemies on the ship might be different. They might be in different rooms, might be different types. The things you're looking for might be different. The way your drones are able to interact with the systems on the ship might be different as well, and so on. So I don't feel this game is grindy, and in no time that I was playing it was I able to put my mind into autopilot. I was always worried of running into new creatures or asteroids beginning to show up and slam into the side of the ship. But thankfully, because of bugs, most of that stuff didn't happen. So now we come to it. Now we come to the category of bugs and frustration. So, a game can lose up to 5 points from me here, depending upon how frustrating these glitches were. So, we have encountered bugs in Duskers. Other people have encountered bugs in Duskers. There are videos of people encountering these glitches. They have happened often enough that it is easy to replicate some of these bugs. Down in the comments section, in addition to this review, right before the review, there is a link to the webpage where someone began to document all the bugs along with video evidence of these things occurring. There is a host of them. There were so many of them that the person who left the review about this on the Steam forums could not include all of them in the Steam review because there was not that much space allowed on the Steam review for the amount of errors that exist in this game. Although we only encountered one glitch. We encountered the game not starting if I never opened the airlock door directly. That glitch meant that we didn't encounter most of the dangers on a ship. In fact, I don't even think the enemy drones, the AIs of not like the crystalline leapers, but the actual enemy drones, similar to ours, I don't think they actually do anything if the timer's not started. They just sit there and just wait endlessly. You can drive, I think, all around the room they're in without ever aggroing the thing. And this was just one small glitch that we encountered. There are others which suck your drones into space. They flood your boarding vessel with radiation. You can have save game corruption. If you play this game on Steam, you will want to download the unofficial patch that fans have put together to fix most of these glitches, because it doesn't exist on GOG, and because it's been 3 years since these were documented, and to my knowledge, the devs have never addressed any of them. So, I'm not going to swear, but that sucks. That really, really sucks. And now that I've seen all these errors and problems, since I myself have been experiencing one of them as I played this game, I cannot unsee them. I cannot unknow what I now know about this game. I feel that, for me, based on the one glitch I had, and it is arguably easy for me to circumvent it, that I would dock the game 2 points here. However, seeing the sheer amount of them and knowing that some of my viewers have encountered these as well as others, and seeing the long list of errors that are out, and the fact that fans had to fix it, I'm going to dock 4 points from Duskers due to this issue. So almost the most I can dock from a game. Only Doom 2016 has been the only game I would have dropped 5 points from, given the absolute nightmarish state of that game. And the state it's still in to this day, by the way, Bethesda. Next up is how balanced the game is. So, you can score between 0 and 2 points here, or rather 0 through 2 points. And, well, I think this game could use some work. Some mods are better than others, in my opinion, and some are almost useless. I always want to start with a drone that has interface or stealth rather than lore. As Crystal Leapers explore rooms and may enter ones that you opened anyway, I don't really feel I would need a lore in a room unless there's some aspect about lore that I don't understand that makes it phenomenally good, and I just never realized how good it is. But again, some mods are better than others. I do like the balance between speed and safety that the game has, but I really, 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 really hate, again, the taking away of the schematic view that we see right here in front of us, for example. I don't like this vanishing on me. I can't understand why they would do this as a thing. Well, I can. They want to tax you to make you feel like you have to pay scrap rather than holding on to all of it due to your explorations. But this makes it even more punishing if you're losing the video feed for your schematic view on your ship and you make a mistake and lose drones along as well. I suppose that's one aspect of the game some people would really like, though, the difficulty of the game and how you're constantly fighting all these systems that are breaking down, but I absolutely hated this aspect of the game, loathed it 100%. As I've said before, if I knew this was a thing that would have broken down, I never would have bought in the game in the first place. That's how much I really dislike this aspect of the game. But that said, between a 0 and a 2, I can give the game a 1. I think it needs some work, but overall, it's decent enough. For my thumb on the scale, this is how much Tim enjoyed playing the game. I like my time spent in the game for the few hours that we played it, maybe about 8 hours total, and I have about another 4 hours in on it on the other computer. I could tell by the ending of the last video I recorded, though, which was not including this one, that the game probably wasn't for me. I can't really play RTSs very well any longer. I just don't have the reaction time required to do them quickly. It takes me too long. I panic. I type the wrong things. I need a pause button, basically, these days. So I do think there's some good ideas here. But again, thanks to problems with the game, unfortunately, I didn't get to see most of them. So there's that aspect too. So I think I'll give it a 1 on a score of 0 through 2. And as for the awesome ending, you can get 1 point here. Well, we never saw an ending because of bugs. So, in a way, the bugs that are in Duskers have actually prevented it from scoring probably much higher on my scoring system, because we didn't get to experience most of the things that this game would have because of this glitch that I didn't realize was bothering me until I was about 8 videos in. So, after about 8 hours of playing, and I only realized this bug existed because I noticed the response the game gave me as I was trying to leave a derelict. And then I had to go online to look up this information. So, I don't know. There you have it. So, what am I going to give this game? So, on a scale of -7 to 20. I think my math is correct. I give the game a 5. I can't recommend it due to the bugs that exist within it. It impacted every single aspect of my enjoyment of this game. I could have begun to try to circumvent the bug by mentally remembering what to do. Just type open A1 or add it to the alias. But I don't see why I should have to begin doing things to circumvent specific errors that the developers didn't fix themselves, and it's been 3 years since this game has been out. That's just... I feel like that's insulting. I feel like that's really, really lazy, that if you don't fix it. When I released my mod for Darkest Dungeon, and people report bugs, I spent hours trying to fix these bugs that my mod had caused. And sure enough, I was able to fix the vast majority of them. I think there might have been like 1 or 2 other issues when I had left it last. But these were because of people playing it on like a different... they were using the Steam cloud save services, and they had the mod installed on one computer but not on the other. And so this would cause some issues. But I think when I had left it, I had fixed all the glitches as quickly, as rapidly as I possibly could. And I did that for free. You pay for this game. $20. These bugs aren't fixed after 3 years. Buyer beware. But to be fair, you may never encounter any of them. Or they could corrupt, but then again, yeah, they could corrupt your save game and ruin your campaign, and you may wish you had never purchased it and want your money back. Again, the devs haven't fixed these in years, and I don't think they will at this rate. And you can find a patch for this on the Steam forums, but you can't apply it to the GOG version of the game. Otherwise, the main gameplay loop is good, really, really solid, and some of the design decisions are great, and some others I really absolutely hate. So, in the end, I don't regret my time playing this game. I'm also really glad I'm stopping now. So, there you have it. Thank you guys for watching this, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next game. Take care, everyone.